Hey, you guys. Okay, so I'm really excited about today's video because I didn't know how I was going to continue the Connect the Dots series. I didn't know what the next dot was that I wanted to connect, but I want to thank Black Nile because Black Nile posted a comment on the other video in this series with a link to an interview. And there was something that was discussed in this interview, which I'm going to be showing the interview, that made me think of the Cuba-South Africa connection. And how this would be a perfect opportunity to bring that in, because in this series of connecting the dots, and I'll make a playlist just for this series for those of you who are interested, we started with the Venezuela situation, the the Latin Caribbean alliance that is happening, and kind of unpacking that. And then we showed how in that alliance, Venezuela was in support of Haiti, helping them to have economic freedom from white imperialism, because Haiti garnered their freedom. They were the first, right, to garner their freedom from actual colonization. But their economic freedom had been greatly stifled because everything is built on international trade, especially when you're on an island, right? And we spoke about how Venezuela had come in. Because petrol is so important, and just opened up a door so that Haiti could get what they needed as far as petrol was concerned, but still have the funds to build infrastructure, to improve the school system, to ensure healthcare of their people. And then we know that the United States, as the arm of white colonialism, came in and they replaced that president with a puppet president who was tied to Haitian drug lords. And they started stealing the money from the Petro-Caribe fund that Haiti had. And then that followed with the current president. And that a lot of the civil uprising in Haiti is not just about the money, it's also about the fact that in Hispaniola, the puppet presidents of Haiti and the Dominican Republic have been denouncing Venezuela. Now, if we go back to the Latin Caribbean Alliance, we know that Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua are at the top of this coalition because they have a lot of resources. And so we understand why the puppet presidents then were pushed by the United States and the international white arm to denounce Venezuela, especially considering Venezuela has one of, if not arguably, the largest supply of crude oil on Earth that is known. So with that said, I wanted to continue this series because the goal of this series is to demonstrate that there is actively, and there has been actively, a uniform and collaborative effort to break free of racism and white imperialism. And that the myth that this is not happening and that the imperialistic structure is one that cannot be penetrated is a lie. And I want to demonstrate this further and really put perspective into why we hate Cuba so much, and why we hate Venezuela's alliance with Cuba, why we hate Hispaniola's alliance with Venezuela, why this is all a problem. Because if we look at a map, we're looking at a section of the earth, a section of this world where the people are pushing out white colonialism back toward Europe. They're pushing white people back toward their lands. And this is clearly demonstrated in what happened between Cuba and Angola in South Africa that helped bring on the end of apartheid. And this was done because physical force was needed, and physical force was able to be executed to the degree it was because of a Cuban South African alliance. And I think this is something that I know we're not openly speaking about in the history books in our school, even during world history. But I want to thank Black Nile for the interview, which we'll be looking at soon, where there is a African man talking about unification and hearkening to this global movement. And he makes in casual mention about the Cuban Angola alliance. And I think that is a great place to continue this series because the earth is a big place and I was having a hard time deciding what angle I wanted to take. But I think that Providence has really lined this up. I also want to thank someone else who made a comment, another commenter. Let me see if I can find her because the comments are like, they get so drowned out. I want to cite her personally if I can find her. Let me see. I'm sorry, guys. There was another commenter who was speaking on, let me go to my actual comment section. She was speaking on how whites do have an alliance globally. We're just late to the game as Black people, and she pointed to the G8. And I'm so glad that she pointed that out because it was Miss Fola. And I want to read her comment directly because it was such a good comment. She says, Europeans are unified. Ever heard of the G8, which includes Germany, France, Italy, Russia, Japan, Canada, the United States, and the European Union? That would be what I refer to when I say the imperialistic arm, right? The United States is the imperialistic arm of whiteness. And that would include all of these white people. Note that there are other countries included. Now, what I will say is that Russia isn't jumping on the bandwagon because they have some trade going on, and Russia has not always had full allegiance from the other members of the G8. But I don't trust Russia. Let me just say that. Black people, she says, Europeans are unified. Ever heard of the G8, which includes Germany, France, Italy, Russia, Japan, Canada, the United States, and the European Union? Black people seem to always be late to the table. There is currently a recolonization, an Asia and European land grab occurring in Africa. And that is so true. And so we want to keep our eye on it. So I would like to thank both Ms. Fola and Black Nile for their comments. And with that said, let's just go ahead and let's get right into this. I want to talk about a little bit of little known history, and then I'm going to get into my visuals because you guys know I love a visual because there's nothing like seeing Fidel Castro and Nelson Mandela hugging to really put in perspective that this is not a game. And then I want to get into what has been seeded from the liberation of South Africa and talk about the leader of Black First, Land First, and where we stand today and how global. When I say the revolution is nigh, I mean it's knocking at the door. And these are things that are not reported on in the United States, but make no mistake that this thing is happening. And so what is going on with Blacks in the United States is very suspect. As far as this encouragement for us to divide ourselves away from the very people who are engaging in the revolution. And by revolution, I mean the displacement of the current colonial and imperialistic system. So let's pull in Exactly. And I'm going to go through my notes and I'm going to try to do better than I did yesterday when I got overwhelmed. And let's talk about the relationship that Fidel Castro formed with Nelson Mandela in South Africa that ultimately led to their liberation. And this is without question because in Angola, Castro is hailed as a hero alongside Nelson Mandela. And he had the honor of having Nelson Mandela call him a friend. And we're going to watch these words leave Nelson Mandela's mouth in just a little bit. Um, In a 1998 speech, Fidel Castro actually referred to the South African parliament during his first visit to the country toward the end of the Cold War. And he said that over almost 400,000 Cuban soldiers and officers had been on duty and fought hand in hand with African soldiers and officers in this continent for the national independence or against foreign aggression. By foreign aggression, he means white people. Many Cubans also lost their lives. It was exposed in the Los Angeles Times, and I'm going to show you guys the article because Americans, we were kept in the dark about this. When we think of apartheid, many of us don't think of Fidel Castro because we've always been taught he was a monster, right? Being part of how whites got pushed out of South Africa. But the fact of the matter is, when a member defected, they exposed the fact that Fidel Castro sent in Cuban troops and that tens of thousands of them had been killed since 1976 in Angola, which was higher than the fatalities that our country experienced in Vietnam, which not to say we had any business being in Vietnam, but still. In 1991, Nelson Mandela referred to Fidel Castro as a source of inspiration to all freedom-loving people. This is now, how many of our people love Nelson Mandela? This is a very different picture. See, what we have to recognize is that we live in a system of propaganda. And in order to prop ourselves up and to indoctrinate the people of the United States, things are portrayed to us in a particular way. But there is a reason that we are after Venezuela. There is a reason we hate Cuba. This even ties into Zimbabwe, but we'll do that on another video. But you don't know how deep the rabbit hole of pushing back against white oppression goes. And when we are indoctrinated, El Ghost, I think, his name is, I think it's a he, was in my comment section saying I needed to be careful because Venezuela and Cuba were evil. And I was thinking, you need to watch this live today because you have no idea that we hate Cuba because Cuba is helping others push back against white imperialism. You have no idea that we hate Venezuela because they came in when whites tried to starve out Haiti and gave Haiti a means to rebuild itself from colonialism outside of whiteness. Now, the white and imperialistic arm reached back in and infiltrated the Haitian government, and we're seeing the results of that today. But make no mistake, we hate Cuba not because Fidel was oppressive, but because Castro was running around the earth helping people liberate themselves from white imperialism. And when we look at a map, which we'll be doing later, you'll be able to fully visualize the scope of where the revolution is happening and where the push of pushing whiteness away from its colonization strongholds is happening. And so we can look at this from a non-indoctrinated perspective. So we here again in the 1990s, which is recent history, right? We're talking 20 years ago or so, that Nelson Mandela referred to Fidel Castro as a source of inspiration for all freedom-loving people. After, and many people don't know, Mandela went to Cuba, he responded to America's criticism because America has tried to co-opt what happened in South Africa and pretend like we were against it. But we sat complacent, our government did, and so did the blacks in this country as it happened. And when we, our leaders, that's what I mean by we, because the enemy of our leaders is not always the enemy of the people, and the people are America, not the government. We are America. But our leadership criticized Nelson Mandela and his loyalty to Castro. And his response was that we are now being advised about Cuba by people who have supported the apartheid regimen these last 40 years. No honorable man or woman could ever accept advice from people who never cared for us at the most difficult times. That was Nelson Mandela's response to the United States government when they tried to denounce and get him to be ashamed of his relation to Cuba. When Cuban revolutionary blood was spilled on the soil of Africa to liberate our people, when even the blacks in this country, myself included, stood complacent, whilst our brothers in Africa were oppressed. And this is why they want the Black American to hate the African, to hate the Caribbean blacks, to hate the South American blacks, to despise them. They want us divided because they see that unified, we liberate each other. Unified, we push back against the imperialistic arm of white oppression. I want to get a little bit deeper into the history of things because, as much as the media has tried to portray Cuba through the prism of Fidel Castro, having refugees on dirty little boats struggling to come to America, we have to recognize this is not the picture that is painted of him throughout the globe. It has been a one-sided story that we have been given here in the state. But today I hope to do the small part that I can in whatever inadequate way that I can to present the other side of this story. Not only did Fidel Castro help Angola push back against apartheid and white imperialism and work alongside Nelson Mandela and fight for his release, but he also helped Angolans establish a new system of education and literacy in their country. This means that Africans were brought to Cuba not to be subservient, because Fidel spoke highly against racism, but he brought them there to be educated so that they could there was a doctor exchange program and everything, so that they could take that knowledge back and rebuild what had been destroyed during the war and fight for their liberation. They also sent Cuban doctors in to help build up and prop up the medical system and train doctors in South Africa so that they could be independent of whites and rebuild because you know how whites are. When you push them out, they try to starve you out. They try to pull things. They try to shut down systems so that the people will be destitute, as they did with Zimbabwe, so that they can point out how blacks cannot survive without whites. So Fidel was doing what he could to to prevent that from happening in Angola. And so he is actually heralded and loved in Angola and celebrated in South Africa for the work that he did there. The military missions that were established to help in Africa to end the apartheid were called the Centers for Revolutionary Instruction. And they trained the African fighters to fight against the white imperialistic arm that was crushing them and keeping them oppressed in their own country. And with that said, I want to go ahead and I want to share my screen with you. But before I do, I want to bring in one more country that we're going to talk about a little bit more, Jamaica. Okay. So to understand how deeply the Latin Caribbean alliances and the Latin Caribbean alliance with Africa is, so that we recognize that in America, we are the odd blacks out in this, okay? This is what they don't want us to know in America as Black people. Jamaica, which is a poor country we know, and is exploited through tourism. And I say exploited because they don't get the money that they should get for our tourism from the Western world. They were in bad need of money. But PM Manley resisted all pressure pushed on him to denounce Fidel Castro for sending troops to Angola. They went to Jamaica and tried to get them to denounce Fidel Castro helping Angola push out apartheid and the imperialistic white arm that was crushing Africans in their own land. And they tried to do this by bribing him with US dollars. We're going to talk about how the dollar is being used to control our people on a global level. So they tried to get Jamaica to denounce Castro for helping Angola end apartheid by offering them US dollars. And Jamaica needed the money. When we talk about, Yvette Carnell said, we're at the bottom of the barrel. Why would we align ourselves with other people at the bottom of the barrel? Jamaica is a poor country. And when offered a bribe of United States money to denounce the work that Fidel Castro was doing, to help liberate Angola and help Nelson Mandela crush apartheid. When he was doing that work and Jamaica was asked to denounce, they refused. They stood in support of Angola's liberation from apartheid and the white imperialistic arm. And their people went hungry. The bottom of the barrel. And Jamaica was not like a crab at the bottom of the barrel, clawing its way over its Black brothers in Africa, clawing its way over the Cubans. They refused the money. They would rather go hungry. They would rather be poor. They would rather be in need of money than to see other Black people oppressed. And this is the spirit of the movement that we do not talk about in the United States. This is the spirit of the revolution that is currently happening throughout the Latin Americas, the Caribbean islands, and the westernmost coast of Africa. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm about to share my screen with you. And we're going to dig deep into this thing together and learn and talk together. I got the call thing working, you guys. So hopefully today we'll have a chance to use it. Let me go ahead and give my fair use warning. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use and is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 USC 107. I just want to make sure that you guys can actually see what I'm presenting because I'm not looking at the chat. So let me try to look at the chat. If I can, so that I can see what you guys are seeing and make sure that you guys can see my screen. So yeah, I'm not ignoring the chat. I literally can't see the chat. So let's see. Yes, you guys can see my screen. Dope. Okay. So let's continue. This is Fidel Castro for those people who don't know what he looks like, because I want you to know his face, because in the upcoming pictures, we're going to see him with Nelson Mandela. So this is Fidel Castro. We've always been taught that he is a communist, that he is evil, da 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 da. Little do we know, while our country stood by and watched Black people be oppressed because our leaders are in on this white imperialistic nonsense, Fidel Castro was out letting his people's blood run in the street on behalf of ours. Here we have Nelson Mandela with Fidel Castro. Nelson Mandela loved Castro. When we talk about Nelson Mandela, if we have any respect for that man and the work that he did, if we have any love for those that fought against apartheid, we have to embrace Cuba. We have to. There's no way around that. We just heard that Jamaica refused to denounce Cuba even when offered a bribe of United States money because of the work that they were doing in Angola, which effectively, because their military went there and fought and brought weapons, helped end apartheid. This is a story that we're not told in the United States. Here we have again Nelson Mandela with Fidel Castro. Until the day that he died, he never denounced Castro. This is a very different picture. This is a side of Nelson Mandela I think many of our people are not aware of. And I was unaware of it until I learned it. And so that's why we take these journeys together, and we have to deconstruct the conditioning and the propaganda, because, indoctrination is a bitch, right? We have been indoctrinated. And it's going to be these conversations that help us see the fallacy in the belief that the imperialistic arm is one that cannot be penetrated, that the imperialistic arm is one that no one is fighting against, and that those Blacks outside of the country feel no allegiance to other Black people. I had a caller in last night, and I think I'll play the clip of it at the end of this live, who is an African man living in Aboriginal land, living in Australia. And when he spoke about the violence against young Black men in America, he said, our children. He called them our children. And that is the heart of our people worldwide. We are equalized by our skin. We are equalized by the oppression that white imperialism has globally against our people. So Black Nile, this is the interview that he sent me that got me wanting to talk on this topic. We're going to work our way through this interview, and then we're going to go to some archival footage of Fidel Castro and Nelson Mandela and their relationship with each other. In fact, actually, I think I'm going to do this in reverse. Let's go to the footage of Castro and Mandela first. Because I think until you see this with your own eyes, it is hard to believe, but this is the case. Okay? This is the reality of why the United States hates Cuba. This is the reality of why the United States hates Venezuela. This is the reality of why the United States despises Haiti. We despise, our leaders despise all people who are successful against fighting back against white imperialism, because white imperialists are joint in their desire to control the non-white populations of the earth.
Had it not been for the Cuban presence in Africa, and in particular in Angola, the history of Africa would have never been what it is now. One of the greatest friends that Cuba has is Nelson Mandela.
I just think we need to hear that again, because how many of you guys heard this in school? Not at all, right?
Had it not been for the Cuban presence in Africa, and in particular in Angola, the history of Africa would have never been what it is now. One of the greatest friends that Cuba has is Nelson Mandela and his appreciation for what the Cuban people did and Fidel Castro. But I think if you don't understand that history, then you'll never really understand the enormous success and the importance of the Cuban Revolution.
Well, my president. My president.
My brother.
President and my brother.
How are you?
My brother.
Please.
You heard Castro called him his brother, and they're about to embrace. You know how much Nelson Mandela loved his people, and he loved Castro because Castro loved Africa's people too. He loved them enough to send Cuban bodies there to be slaughtered in the streets in the fight against white imperialism.
Very nice to see you.
Están contentos de verlo.
Please sit down.
Están contentos. Por favor, tenga bien
Please sit down.
sentarse.
Please sit down.
Siéntese.
There's an interpreter there. They don't even speak the same language. Y'all understand how real this is. There is a language barrier there, but the language of oppression knows no linguistic lines. Castro didn't have to speak in the language of the Africans. He didn't have to speak in English to have the heart to get Cuba involved, both during the fight for the end of apartheid and then after apartheid ended, to ensure that Angola and the South Africas would have the support they needed to rebuild as they tried to push white people out. And they are still trying to push white people out, but we're going to get to that later.
Now, one thing before we say anything.
Una cosa antes de hablar, nada.
Before we say anything.
Antes de hablar absolutamente de cualquier tema,
You must tell me when you are coming to South
me
Africa.
tiene que decir cuándo viene para Sudáfrica.
You say, no, just a moment, just a moment.
No, un momento.
Es seguro, si ya yo
Moment.
recibí.
The sooner the better.
And we have had a visit from a wide
Y hemos
variety of
visitado una
people.
gran cantidad de personas.
And our friend Cuba,
Y nuestro amigo Cuba,
which helped us in training our people,
que nos ayudó a entrenar a nuestra gente.
gave
He said, our friend Cuba, which helped us in training our people. Let me tell you something. Upon Mandela's death, there were only 8 individuals allowed at the funeral who were foreign leaders. And the leader of Cuba was one of them. This is how serious this situation was. This is how much love those in Latin America have for those in Africa. This is why Venezuela did what they could to help Haiti and the island of Hispaniola as a whole, including the Dominican Republic. This is why Haiti is in the streets ready to rip apart their government over their false puppet president denouncing the president Maduro of Venezuela. This is why. See, we don't recognize this thing is happening. This thing is on the move. We're looking back, but I'm going to bring you to present day. This thing is already happening. It's already at the door.
us resources to
Que
get
nos dio
on with our
recursos
struggle,
que nos ayudaron tanto en nuestra
trained
lucha,
our people
que
as
entrenó a nuestros
doctors and so
combatientes, a
on.
nuestros médicos.
You have not come to our country.
Cuba no ha venido a visitarnos, usted no ha ido a visitar.
Did you hear that? He said, you helped us, you trained our soldiers, you trained our people as doctors, teachers, all of that. Castro did that because of his love for the African people and his hatred for white imperialism. And he never had stepped a foot in Africa. He never had to go there. He never had to go there to do the work that needed to be done. We talk about so many times, what can we do when we're not physically there? But you know what? Our will extends past. We can go, we can be on the ground in the fight, but we also can do work where we are. Unity is a mental state first, above a physical state. Just like division is a mental state first, above a physical state.
When are you coming?
¿Cuándo vienes?
No he visitado a mi patria
I
surafricana.
haven't visited my South African homeland
La
yet.
quiero como una patria.
I love it as a
Quiero por
homeland.
él.
What did he call it? He said, I haven't visited my South African homeland. These people know who they are. They know who they are. They know what their legacy is. They know that slavery stretched far and wide. They're not stupid. It is only in America that we are so close to our white imperialistic leaders, our masters, that we don't understand. It's only because that.
El pueblo.
I love it as a homeland as I love you and the South
When
African
are you
people.
coming to South
Pero
Africa?
¿cuándo vienes a
When?
Sudáfrica?
Creo que va a tener que ser hoy mismo. Voy a
I
tener
think it
que
will have to be
fly
today. I will have to fly back with you.
No, you are very, very, very
Él
soon.
se va a las 10.
You're leaving at 10, so we're catching the plane together.
Poco después, Fidel sí pudo ir a Sudáfrica, y en el camino hizo escala en Namibia, donde fue recibido por Sandu Yoma, el líder de ese país.
Welcome to the Republic of Namibia,
Bienvenido a la República de Namibia.
the country which you helped to liberate, to be liberated.
En Sudáfrica, Mandela lo esperaba. Fidel fue invitado a hablar al Parlamento sudafricano.
This is not the picture of Nelson Mandela. This is not the picture of Fidel Castro. This is not the picture they're painting. When they paint a picture of Venezuela, they're not painting a picture of a Latin country filled with Black people that went to Haiti to try to undo and help Haiti buffer itself against the crushing weight of white imperialism. This is not the picture that they're painting. They want you to think no one is working against this. They tell history in a way that omits these stories, because what will we think if we know the truth?
Conviértase Sudáfrica en modelo de un mundo futuro más justo y más humano.
Let South Africa be a model of a more just and more humane future.
That is the legacy. You see Mandela clapping. And I agree with that statement. Let South Africa, what they did, what they are doing, what Black First Land First is trying to do. And we're going to watch a killer ass interview with the leader of Black First Land First. This is the modern day. When people say there are no revolutionaries, no, this movement is not over. We're looking back at history because I want us to collectively understand that the Latin Caribbean coalition stretches out into Africa, that there is a global move to crush imperialism. We're not alone in this. We are not relics. We are not standing in the way. It is those who don't believe that are standing in the way. It is those who are complacent and divisive that stand in the way. It is not about hating anybody, but we cannot let them run things when they run things with a hand that oppresses everyone who looks like us. And they do it globally. When they shoot us, they will kill us all. And it will be our skin that marks us. It will be our skin. They will not ask if we're American or African or Aborigine. They will not ask if we're South Indian. I have a whole video coming. I don't think we recognize our people are everywhere. They oppress Blackness everywhere. Blackness with straight hair, Blackness with green eyes, Blackness with blonde hair, Blackness with kinky hair. They oppress it in every continent, everywhere. The people that look just like us, And there's a move to push back against this, a collective move. And in our media and in our propaganda in this country, they portray these people as wicked people, when the truth is they are working to push back against the system. And I guess they're wicked people if you're the one telling the story and they're the ones pushing back against you. But you decide. You decide for yourself.
Si ustedes pueden, todos podemos.
If you can do it, we will all be able to do it.
Fidel is linked to the post-colonial era as the figure who, more than any, I think, symbolizes independence and sovereignty of small nations, shaking off the yoke of the imperial powers.
This is why they hate everything that Cuba is related to. Venezuela linked with Cuba, and now they hate Venezuela. Guatemala linked with Venezuela and Cuba, and now they hate Guatemala. Nicaragua linked with Venezuela and Cuba, and now they hate them. Haiti linked with Venezuela and Cuba, and now they hate them. South Africa linked with Venezuela and Cuba, and as the leader of Black First, Land First said, we will kill 7 of yours for every one of ours, and now they hate him. They hate what they cannot control. People say, well, our numbers are so small. What can we do? That was the message of those who push back against the imperialistic arm, is that it is not about numbers. It is about our heart. It is about our unity. It's about our commitment. They hate Castro for a reason. They hate Cuba for a reason. They infiltrate these governments for a reason. And it is not because they are evil. It is not because these people are evil. Is Nelson Mandela evil? You tell me.
And the fact that he has been there for as long as he has and has been able to magnify his role to really a global force from this tiny island base.
It is easy to build a nation. It is far more difficult to shape a society. And this is what Cuba is doing. It will need all the time in the world. It will need all the humility, all the meekness, all the generosity of spirit to itself and to others to emerge.
En los años 70 y 80, el campo de batalla interno era la economía. Se hacían grandes esfuerzos para industrializar el país y crear un bienestar compartido pese al bloqueo de los Estados Unidos. Cuba dependía de un solo cultivo, el azúcar. La Unión Soviética.
See, this is why we have to say no to drugs. Check it. Just like the Chinese have pumped drugs in to fuck up these white people, cocaine has been a problem for white people, and they made it a problem via crack for Black people, right? Y'all, this thing is so, the levels of this warfare are so crazy. The fronts, I just want to make a video just on the warfare of it, the technique of it all. Because when we start to see this thing through a wide lens and not through our propaganda, it all starts to make sense. And we know what pots not to step in. We know what sectors we shouldn't deal with. We know what things we should stay away from. Recognize weapons when you see weapons. Recognize weapons when you see weapons. and use them against the enemy, but don't use them on yourself.
Había prometido comprar toda la producción. Fidel animaba al resto del país en el intento de alcanzar cosechas récord.
Suspendir su desarrollo es una tarea titánica realmente.
I just want to say that I think until we see it for ourselves, we cannot fully appreciate the truth of it. Until we see the embracing by South Africa of Fidel Castro, this is the educational programs that they put forth. The training that they put forth. Until we see these things with our own eyes, we cannot. It's hard to comprehend the love and the unity of it all because we've been indoctrinated to view it differently. That's why when El Ghost commented under my post, Irene, be careful, I was saying, you be careful. Indoctrination is a bitch. It really is.
Short years, educate all of its children, to create a system of education that is comprehensive, that reaches the entire society, that abolishes illiteracy.
So he's going on to talk about the educational programs. You know, Cuba is always portrayed as this awful place where nothing's going right. They've been very successful. They have. I just want to go back to this picture before we move on, because until you see it for yourself, because they don't teach it to us. And if they teach it to us, it's with no depth. You don't understand the real problem that is afoot here, the real reason that our president is sicking a mass murderer on South America, on Venezuela, and is coming for Cuba. You don't understand why this is happening. On one hand, I respect the way Trump moves. He is doing what his job is to do, which is he's going to keep power. As a Black person, though, I can do nothing but want to see the Latin Caribbean Alliance win. I can do nothing but want to see Black First, Land First win. I could do nothing but want to be unified with that. Because to not be unified with that is to be unified with the crushing of our people on a global scale. And that's what we have to recognize. I just go back to Jamaica, a poor country that was offered American money at the time they needed it most to denounce Fidel Castro and his help of the ending of apartheid. And the Jamaicans would rather fucking starve. They would rather starve. They would not touch our dirty money and see South Africa liberated. Do we have that heart in the States, or do we live in the big house and we're too close to massa? I mean, that's what I'm starting to ask myself. It's like, is that our problem here? Is we're too close to our masters? It's nice here in the big house. Like Yvette Carnell said, this is a first world country. It's nice. It's real posh here. It's real cush. So we never look out to the field, and we don't feel solidarity with those in the field. Because to look out to the field is to have to go out to the field, and to go out to the field means you don't get to live in the house. So Black Nile, this is what he sent me that helped me decide to take the Cuba Africa angle and tie it into Venezuela and Haiti and the revolution that is nigh, as I've been calling it. And I just want to go ahead and I just want us to listen to this interview and analyze it. And then we're going to get into the current movement in South Africa of Black First, Land First, because I made the assertion that there is a collective of revolutionary minds that are working globally to push back against white imperialism, and that as Black people, this is not the time for us to divest from our own for a fucking check. Now, I made this assertion, but I want to prove that. I want to back it up. So I'm going to start with this again. Thank you to Black Nile for sending me this particular interview that we're about to watch, because it helped me frame this particular stepping stone, this piece of the puzzle, that we're putting together as far as us understanding the global perspective of Black people and what is really being done and how we are really viewed globally and where the hearts of our people are globally, not by some random doctor that came here from the West Indies and crawled over the top of us who aren't even doctors, not from that perspective, but from the perspective of people who lay down their lives and are killed, who put themselves at risk, who are on national media today defending Blackness and pushing for this revolution.
Hello, welcome to From Caracas. I'm Laura Prada, and in this opportunity, we'll be talking to Wesley Pratt, who is a journalist and a political activist from Ghana, to whom we'll be talking about that bridge that brings together Africa and Latin America and the Caribbean. Welcome.
Hello.
So let's be clear on the framework of this interview. This interview is to talk about the bridge that brings forth the coalition between Latin America, Africa, and the Caribbean.
I want to ask you, what are you doing in Venezuela, and what is your interest here?
Well, first and foremost, I came to express full solidarity with the working people of Venezuela and their government for striving to maintain their national independence and sovereignty.
Oh my gosh, y'all. I'm going to try not to, this interview, oh my gosh, it's about to summarize my whole heart right now. He's currently in Venezuela. She's like, why are you here? She's like, we are in solidarity with you. This is why they're after all of these people. Now she's whitest of the white in Venezuela. Let's be clear. Most of the people of Venezuela don't look like her, right? But this is their problem. This is the problem of the European Union. This is the problem of the fat cats in Washington. This is the problem of the UN. This is why UN troops are out in Haiti just shooting people down in the flipping street, why there are mercenaries shooting people down in the streets of Haiti. This is why they're talking about going after Cuba. This is why they have a problem with Guatemala. This is the problem. This Black man in Venezuela talking about, I'm from Africa. We are in solidarity with you, wanting to keep these white people out of your stuff. Y'all, I'm telling you, this thing is so real. When I say it is at the door, I mean, you don't hear it knocking. Wait, you don't hear it knocking at the door?
I came to give support to President Maduro, who has been elected, for another 6-year term. And I came to give this solidarity in the face of the unjustified aggression from the United States of America and from the Lima Group and other reactionary centers around the world. It is my duty as an African and as a revolutionary to support.
Oh, wait. What is he? Is he African? Is he a revolutionary? Is Africa showing up to support Venezuela? Venezuela is showing up to support Haiti? Cuba showing up to support Africa? Is this a circle? Am I going crazy? Is it just me? Oh, it's a circle. Oh, okay. Oh, well, look at this. Look at pictures being painted. The real story is coming out. When we don't listen to our own stuff and we start paying attention to just the facts of the situation, we see why there is a man known to kill hundreds of thousands of people being recruited by the American government to be sicked on these countries. Now we understand why they're sending a fucking killer down there who's known for infiltrating governments and getting people dead to the tune of hundreds of thousands, an actual war criminal. Now we know why our president is bringing on that fool. It's starting to all make sense. Pick a side.
Revolutionary causes around the world. And President Maduro is leading the way in Venezuela and linking up with other countries like Cuba.
Why is it important that social movements, that progressive movements bind together and work to defend that project?
Well, first of all, because the reactionary forces around the world, the forces of imperialism and the forces of neoliberalism, are working together. They are uniting. And their purpose is to send us back to the days of slavery and colonialism.
Oh, wait, what is their purpose? Y'all, what's their purpose? To send us back to the days of slavery and colonialism. Remember when I said slavery was never abolished, it was reformed. That's why I called that video the Reformation of Slavery. But because you have cable and I have a closet full of shoes, we don't care about that. We're just going to pretend like nothing to see here. There's nothing going on.
We can only survive if we work together. We can only survive if we pool our resources together. We can only survive if we show solidarity to the different causes around the world.
Talking about resources, a country like Venezuela, which has similar resources like Ghana, is there a risk that the administration of that wealth lead to a similar situation that we have seen in history in Africa, that resources call other people's interests?
Well, for hundreds of years.
Before he answers, I want to be sure you guys caught her question. Remember I said that white people spread themselves out and engaged in colonialism because Europe is a barren land. It is cold. The weather is ugly. The climate is awful. They can't really grow anything worth having there. They have nothing. So she's saying Ghana, because he's from Ghana, has similar resources to Venezuela, means you're the shit. Africa is filled with resources. The same thing with Venezuela. The same thing with Haiti. What did we just watch? The white dudes, we want to get in Haiti, go up into the mountains and run this whole city like it's a corporation. You know what I mean? And then he showed 6 other white dudes that were going to do the work with him. This is a prime location. We could use it for this and that. That's what white people have to do. Recognize they have nothing. Their land is worth nothing. All they can do is go and oppress people in places. And she's saying, is what we have, is the richness of what we have going to attract, as it has in the past, these wicked ass people? Are they going to come for what we have? Yes, we know they're going to come. They're never going to stop until somebody makes them stop. Let's be clear.
Peoples of Asia, Africa, and Latin America have become victims of the predatory instincts of imperialism. We went through the transatlantic slave trade, where our forebears were captured as beasts of burden. We've gone through classical colonialism, where practically the colonial powers owned everything in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. And we are now in the period of neocolonialism. Indeed, if you look at Africa, Africa is the richest continent in the world. Africa has close to 50% of the world's total resources. And yet the people of Africa suffer illiteracy, they suffer malnutrition, they suffer all kinds of manifestations of poverty. The only way out of this quagmire is for us to unite. The only way out of this quagmire is for us to pool our resources together, to resist our slavery, to pool our resources together so that we can assert ourselves, decide for ourselves what future we want to build for ourselves and generations to come.
Talking about unity and that importance of the South being together, I want you to talk me about the South-South cooperation in the moment, because I know that you are part of the project Pan-Africa TV, and we are in Telesur, which is making an approach to Africa in the moment. How is that South-South cooperation can be expressed in this opportunity?
Well, first of all, I refuse to see South-South cooperation in geographical terms. Bolsonaro is in Brazil, Brazil is in the South. And yet, Bolsonaro's rule is part of the worldwide fascist movement, which would not lead to our liberation.
Ooh, what did he say? Are you guys listening to this? I know a lot of the names and things like that, for some of us, we haven't heard, but he's talking about what's going on in Brazil. Now, what I haven't, I'm going to tie this in, there's a revolution in Brazil because Brazil isn't filled with white people, but they oppress the black people in Brazil like nobody's business. Even the half-caste people, they oppress like nobody's business. It is fascist. It's tied to the white imperialistic arm, as he's saying. Like I said, this Connecting the Dots series, y'all, is about to get so real and live because you guys just don't, like, some of you might know, but I feel like so many of us just don't even understand that it's on the move, y'all. Like, this is happening. This is happening. It's been happening for generations, and it's getting more and more real by the day.
It's not a geographical description to be talking about South-South. I see South-South, meaningful South-South, as cooperation and the working together of peoples who want to be free, peoples who want to build a new world of equal citizens, people who want to build a new world in which no child goes to bed on an empty stomach. And it is in that context that we are beginning to talk to Telesur. And we are talking to Telesur because the vision of Telesur is not substantially different from our vision. Our vision is to tell the real story, the true story of people who are engaged in struggle for national liberation, people who are engaged in struggle for building self-reliant societies, and so on. Our vision is to prevent the situation where the big media in the West confuses our people, disarms our people, and facilitate their continued enslavement.
What? That can't be happening. Y'all, that's not what happens. We're not confused. The big Western media is not confusing us, is not disarming us, and is not dumbing us down into continued slavery. That could not, he's wrong. Okay? That's not what's happening at all. No, y'all, that's not what's going on. We're not, in a Thanksgiving turkey stupor.
Telesur is one of the best examples of cooperation in Latin America, with a view to telling the authentic story of the African people, with a view to mobilizing our people to free themselves from all forms of underdevelopment and slavery.
Now I want you to identify me some of those similarities between the two countries, between Ghana and Venezuela, and between the two continents, from their social and cultural point of view. Is there a chance that the two countries can be more linked together despite the distance, and the two continents are linked together despite the distance?
Well, first of all, if you look at the world from a historical perspective, all of the world has one history. A history which starts from primitive communalism, through slavery, through feudalism, through capitalism, and the new international effort by progressive forces to construct socialism. So all of the world is linked together by a common history. We in Africa are particularly linked with countries like Cuba, like Venezuela, and so on, because some of our people live here. I mean, there's a large percentage of the Venezuelan population which is African, and which came here as a result of the transatlantic slave trade. Indeed, if you look at the cultural practices in Brazil, in Ecuador, in Cuba, and elsewhere, it is clear that there's a strong bond, in terms of our religion, in terms of our food, in terms of many other cultural practices and so on. For example, if you take cassava is a staple food here. It's a staple food in Cuba. It's a staple food in many of the Latin American countries. We tend to think together. We tend to act together. And it is very, very important to recognize that after the success of the 1959 revolution in Cuba, Ghana was the first country to recognize the Cuban government and establish diplomatic relations with Cuba. That says a lot. If you look at our struggle for national...
So when we consider Angola, Zimbabwe, Ghana, these are all you're going to see a theme. You're going to see all of the countries that are pretty much drug in our media are all part of this coalition to squash out whiteness and racism. It's just a coincidence, but it just happens to work that way.
Liberation in Africa. We cannot ignore the fact that Cuban internationalist forces fought in Angola to consolidate the freedom of the Angolan people, to create the conditions for the defeat of apartheid, and to create the conditions for the independence of Namibia. Cubans lost their lives to bring us where we are. And today, the people of Venezuela, under their dynamic leadership, is also treading the same path. We have a lot in common, and we cannot do anything but work together for our own salvation.
Talking about that solidarity with Venezuela, recently Chancellor Jorge Arreaza made a visit to Ghana and to other countries in Africa, part of the called Dignity Tour. How that visit brought the basis of a better or of a broader South-South cooperation between Ghana and Venezuela, and on the other hand, how this necessity to be on each other's side have made social movements work harder to defend, to support each country.
The visit of officials, no matter how high they are, may be important, but it is not everything. Officials talk at the official level. They talk at the formal diplomatic level and so on. It contributes to promoting understanding. It contributes to building relationship. But ultimately, a people-to-people relationship is superior,
And I would agree with that. Ultimately, as he said, officials do official stuff and they speak on a diplomatic level. The work is done at the human level. It's people. It's going to be the actual revolutionaries in the street. It's going to be the actual people of the land that are going to make the difference, which is why the war front on the information side is done at the lowest level. It's done at the human level. The indoctrination is done at the people's level, right? Because it's us that they need to get all twisted in the mind. It's us that they need to get to be exclusionary and divisive. It's us that they need to brainwash into believing their rhetoric. Because if the people who make up the majority do not go along with the minority, what's going to happen? That's when we get social revolution. And that would bring us into my cognitive and liberation series and my social revolution series about how they managed to keep that down with control. So he's right. I agree with him that the human level, the people to people connection is essential.
That of what the diplomats do and what the heads of states do and so on. And it is in this connection that I'm excited about the fact that next month there will be an International People's Assembly in Caracas, bringing together thousands of activists from around the world to network, to share ideas, and to show support.
Why is the White House going crazy over Venezuela? They're hosting a revolutionary meeting in Caracas next month. Y'all, did you just hear him? They're hosting a meeting where revolutionaries are going to come and have a conversation about how they're going to progress this thing to the next level. This is why they have a mass murderer they're ready to stick on Venezuela. This is why they're more worried about Venezuela than Cuba even. Because they can't have these shenanigans going on. People flying into Venezuela having conversations about fighting back against white imperialism. They're not about to. I'm telling you guys, this is what the real problem is. Like, we have to read in between the lines. This has nothing to do. They don't care about the Cuban people. They have a murderer that's going to go. They don't care about the Venezuelan people. They have a murderer that they're going to send out to kill them. They care about things like this. They care about next month a bunch of revolutionary people from around the world getting together to have conversations about how they're going to kill this thing once and for all.
For the Venezuelan revolution, which takes its inspiration from Bolivar, who is an outstanding fighter for national liberation in Latin America.
Talking about social movements and meetings in Caracas, some years ago you participated on an African American intellectual meeting that was held here in Caracas, and your fellow intellectuals state that you were worried you hadn't.
Y'all, an African American intellectual meeting that was held in Caracas. This is all going on in Venezuela. And this is why our president is ready to like tear Venezuela to the freaking ground. Okay? There's too many black people getting together talking about black shit in Venezuela. Are you guys listening to this conversation? Does this put in perspective what the EU and our president and all of them are really mad about? Venezuela is doing the absolute most right now. They are over all of this insubordination. They're about to lose their minds with this mess.
Seen any progress regarding fighting patriarchy, male domination, and gender analysis in Africa? What perspective do you hold with?
She said in fighting patriarchy, y'all. These are all, I'm telling you, this is how the universe works, because Black Nile just sent me this interview. But what were we just talking about last week? We were breaking down patriarchy and how it is viewed from the white perspective. This is the hand of God, y'all. I'm not even kidding.
Regard to the fulfillment of Millennium Goals in African countries, and especially in your country, and in the world in general, in the global south?
Well, there are a lot of battles that we have to fight. And all over the world, the most disadvantaged people are women and children and poor people. So the question of gender equality is a very important question everywhere around the world. The struggle against patriarchy is a very important struggle, and so on. So this is what makes the difference between revolutionaries and reactionaries. This is what makes the difference between...
Oh, revolutionaries and reactionaries. He's dropping all kinds of gems, you guys. I could listen to this man talk all day.
Revolutionaries and counter-revolutionaries. As revolutionaries, we have a duty to ourselves and to our societies to ensure that we build societies of equal citizens. Looking into the future, what do I see? There can only be success for us. We cannot be defeated because our cause is right. And no cause which is right has been defeated in history. We will win.
Which is the main challenge of revolutionaries in this moment? In this moment when wars are threatening, when there is a far-right approaching and gaining the leadership of countries, which is that challenge?
You know, in the 1980s, there was a surge of neoliberalism, and many progressive socialism revolutionaries had thought that we would move from neoliberalism to socialism, and that neoliberalism was going to create the conditions for intensified struggle around the world. Unfortunately, what we are seeing now is that there's a real danger of the spread of fascism. You understand? And that it is not automatic that the hardships that are imposed by the neoliberal regimes would lead to socialism. And we are seeing that. We are seeing that in the Philippines, where Duterte has been elected as president. We are seeing that in Brazil, where Bolsonaro has been elected as president. We are seeing that in Europe. I mean, the rise of the far right in France, in the United Kingdom, everywhere, should warn us that the world is heading towards fascism. and that a lot of work needs to be done in order to realize the full aspirations of our people, whether in Asia, Latin America, Africa, North America, or South America. We have a lot of work to do.
How that global south, not geographical south, how is that global south must make a space to show itself to the world, to break that mass media, to those corporate media that change the message that comes from Africa, from Latin America, from Asia?
It's a struggle. We do not expect Fox Television to be promoting the causes of the African people.
Y'all, man. Why is he being serious, though? He's not playing. He said, we don't expect Fox Television to promote the causes. No. CBS, NBC, BET, MTV, Fox. What's some of the other ones? You guys know all the stations. Y'all know I don't even watch TV, and I'm not using this damn computer as a TV either. They are not about to promote this. What are they promoting? They are promoting absolute fuckery. They have you guys, consume. I'm speaking in general terms. I know some of you guys don't get down with media either. Consume with what Cardi B is doing. Consume with what some gay actor is doing. Consume with absolute BS. When people are out here really like, we're about to tear this stuff, like y'all just don't even know. Okay, we're about to tear down this whole system. And our government, while they have us distracted with Fox News and all of that programming that's programming our minds, is literally trying to stop the revolution under us. Our civil servants, we are complacent in the big house. We are complacent under our masses. We are complacent right now. Are literally trying to send a murderer in to kill everybody until these people stop. They're trying to sell us on the belief that we can, like I said, as an American, hell, go in, crush Venezuela, take control of their oil. That can only help me in the big house. As a Black woman, fuck no. Let them have their Black American intellectual conferences. Let them have their coalition of revolutionaries from around the world coming into Venezuela to have a damn meeting next month conferences. Please. Continue this. Let Cuba keep going into countries and shutting down white imperialism. Let people keep going to Haiti when white imperialism won't do crap and trying to undo the trash that was left by the French. Let them keep doing the work. Why are we not in solidarity with them? Why are we hating on this situation? Oh, he said it earlier, and he's right. Because the media is being used to stupefy us, to close our minds. This is not the picture. They're not talking about revolutionary parties coming from around the globe to meet in Venezuela to talk about crushing imperialism being the reason that they want to go down there. They're talking about the spread of democracy, which basically means the strongest person tells the weakest person to shut the hell up and do what you're told. Fascism, as he said, the spread of fascism.
Privilege and so on. We expect Telesu to do that. So we need to do a lot more media work, establish media outlets, and provide a linkage, with all the progressive media outlets around the world. And that is what.
So educated smoker, because I'm trying in my little tiny window down here, like I'm trying to watch the chat. Asked, what can we do? So one thing that we can do for now, right, until there's a move that we can really, really make, is we can unify on these topics. We can do something that Nyla was pointing to, which is that we can use, before they shut this down. I don't know how much longer I'll have my channel, y'all, because I have a monetized channel, but they block a lot of videos so you guys don't even see. I can't even get on YouTube. And also they demonetize everything. But while we have these outlets, that are uncontrolled while they're not looking. Y'all, I'm going to put out as much information as I can while I can before they shut it all down. Do you know what I mean? And everybody do the same. Spread the word. Like I said, the sister yesterday where I posted her Twitter handle, if you're going to be on Twitter, tweet that crap. Do you know what I mean? Tweet what's going on in Haiti. Retweet how they're in solidarity with Venezuela. Talk about the conference that's happening next month. Get the word out. Like, we can do that. Don't buy into agendas that talk about, us fragmenting ourselves from other Black people. Be vocal about the fact that the wool has not been pulled over our eyes. Get the word out, because a lot of our complacency is due to lack of knowledge. The scripture says, my people perish because of a lack of knowledge. Like, we have to get in where we fit in until there's some hands-on work that we can do. And we need to get our minds right and get the white man in our head mentally prepared to die. We need to be killing him, because when the time comes for the real work to be done, if he's still alive and kicking in our brains, we will never do the work. We will never, ever do the work. So that's what we have to do first. We have to be working on our growth, our mental liberation, so that when the physical time comes, we can do the physical work. And we have to be sharing our knowledge and grow together and be having these conversations together. That's what we can do. I mean, we are in the big house. Like I said, we are not as boots on the ground as somebody in Venezuela, as somebody in Africa, where, like Vet Carnell said, drones are out shooting people in the street. But we have a unique positioning here in America. We have operations that we can do in the motherboard of the computer that can just be as effective and as potent. And we need to start being, moving, because there's a lot of stuff I want to say to you guys I'm not about to say here on flipping YouTube. I'm not about to do it. But my life didn't start here on YouTube. And these conversations didn't start with me here on YouTube. But I recognize that there's a hunger and a thirst and a need. And so I'm putting myself out there to have these conversations, which are dangerous conversations to have. But we also need to move this thing into the real world where we can check you at the door and who you are. And then have conversations that are on a next level where we can really talk about the work that we can do.
We're here talking to Telesu and seeing what work we can do together. Of course, there are many other progressive media outlets around the world. I mean, in India, you have People's Dispatch, which is doing a lot of work. In South Africa, there's the New Frame, and so on. You understand? So our task is to link these media outlets. After all, the reactionary media is working together. Why don't we work together? We have no choice but to work together. And I believe that we have the resources in terms of brain power, in terms of our commitment to our struggle, in terms of the physical space and so on, to be able to develop a viable alternative to the reactionary media which wants to perpetuate our enslavement.
Inside of that struggle, which is the role of the social movements, and why not also multilateral agencies in that struggle?
Well, everything works together. Nothing is excluded. The gender movement is important. The trade unions are important. The political parties are important.
Well, I just want to say, Soto, I'm sorry. I just want to say, Soto, that I don't hate white people. I don't. But I also can't move past white imperialism. I can't. How can I do that? How is that possible? Why would I do something like that when there are literally Black people being murdered in cold blood in Haiti? When almost all the Black indigenous people in Australia have been killed. There are not even 700,000 of them living on the planet right now. Like, how? So I can't get over it. I can't get past something that's like actively going on. How can I get over it when there are there are literally 40% of the prison population of the United States is Black people. And they're used for slave labor. How can I get over it when our president just hired somebody that goes throughout the earth killing Blacks by the hundreds of thousands and indigenous people by the hundreds of thousands to go into Venezuela where they're having a conference about liberation from white imperialism to kill them too? Like, some things you can't get past until you're past it, right? And so it's not even about hating white people. I mean, I tell you guys all the time, I have white people in my family. My children are mixed. I have a white aunt that I love. But these white people, if they're on board with the imperialistic white agenda, are a problem. And so it is not my fault that imperialism is at the hands of a white face. If they were purple faces, I would be against purple people. If they were pink faces, I would be against pink people. I would be against pink people imperialism. But it just so happens that it's white people's imperialism. And so that's not the fault of the person that's being oppressed, right? That's the fault of the oppressor. So they're running around the world doing the work of colonization and imperialism and oppression. And so it's not my dislike of white people that has my focus on white people. It's their work that has my focus on white people. Like I said, if orange people were doing the work, I would have a problem with orange imperialism. Unfortunately, it is white imperialism, and so they get to be the focus. If I slap you in the face, we can't talk about anybody but what I did. They're running around slapping people in the face on a global scale. So we have to have that conversation. And it's not about hate, but it is about honesty. And there is a middle ground. To me, this woman interviewing him is a white woman. She's white in my book. She's a white Hispanic. But if she's going to sit there and behave herself and do the work for the cause of Black people and sit there hearing this Black man talk about crushing white imperialism, then she's welcome to hold the interview. Because this isn't about hating them, at least not for me. I know there are people that do hate them. It's not about hating them for me. But at the same time, we cannot pretend as if they are innocent parties and people just don't like them because of their skin color. No, it just happens that a bunch of people with the same skin color are running around the earth acting a flippin' fool. And so if I identify them as such, and they created the division, nobody told them to create race. They went out there and started creating race. They started killing and oppressing people with Black skin. They did that. And now the mess has to be cleaned up. But we need to point at the child who made the mess. And that child has a white face. And that's nobody's fault but their own. If they weren't out there doing the work, nobody could point to the mess that they've made. And so we do need to keep that in perspective. And I want to be very clear about that. That is my stance on it. That is my definite stance on it. So, I'll move past it. She looks Black to you, Soto? You're a mess, Soto. But yeah, no, I think that you said she looks Black to you. You're a mess. Yes, John Crow. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Now, I'm not with him. You know what I mean? Like, we had children, this is a marriage I was in, almost 2 decades ago. I'm married to a Black man now, but yes, I have mixed children. So my whole point is I don't hate white people. That's why nobody could ever pull the Irene hates white people card with me, because I don't hate white people. But I'm not going to deny that white people are a problem. That the hand of imperialism is the hand of imperialistic white people with the aid of traitorous Black people. We have to be honest about that. Right. We shouldn't keep ignoring obvious disrespect. I mean, that's true. But Soto, is cool. Like y'all see that Soto is a mod of mine. All of my mods are not in agreement. I have some mods on here that are on the fence about Black women too. Do you know what I mean? But for me, I love my people, right? For me, I love my people. But I did want to clarify for Soto, I don't hate white people, Soto. Nobody could ever accuse me of that. But I think we also have to have honest conversations.
Their houses are important. All of our people need to work together towards this goal.
When we can see a revolution in Africa that breaks all those messages that have been spread through the years to the world through media, that shows Africa for itself, what it represents, what its real importance to the world.
The revolution in Africa has been on for hundreds of years, and it is continuing. It started with a resistance which was raised by ordinary people and so on against their capture as slaves. The African Revolution is also the Haitian Revolution, which was led by Toussaint Louverture in freeing, Haiti and establishing a new state of African people and so on. The African Revolution included the National Liberation Phase, where we gained independence. We defeated apartheid, and we won't defeat the other forces represented by neoliberalism. It's interesting, for example, that only recently the African National Congress of South Africa is beginning to raise the question of ownership of land. Of course, Zimbabwe started raising the question of ownership of land with some consequences, because the right-wing forces mobilized their forces against Zimbabwe. They strangulated Zimbabwe and so on. But South Africa is beginning to raise the same question about access to land. Who should own land and who should use land and so on. That is part of the revolution in Africa. Part of the revolution in Africa is the struggles of people in mining communities, struggling to preserve the environment. Part of the struggle in Africa is the struggle of the working people for better conditions of life and work. Part of the struggle in Africa is the struggle of students fighting for more academic freedom and so on. So the revolution in Africa is ongoing. It's not stopping. It has never stopped for hundreds of years. And we are making gains. We are achieving huge successes in Africa.
I want to also go a little bit back and talk, because you were talking to me earlier and I asked you about the social movements that are supporting Venezuela.
Well, it is not the country with the most intelligent people and so on. And yet, it has a very, very strong and special role in world affairs. How is that? It is because the dollar has become the currency of preference in international trade. You understand? The dollar has become an instrument of oppression, an instrument of control, and so on. What do we have to do? In Venezuela, the government has started some measures in order to be able to deal with this, and that includes, for example, the introduction of the petrol. But Venezuela cannot do it alone. It is impossible for Venezuela to do it alone. So you need to have a lot more countries coming to the table and designing a new world order, a new world information order, a new world economic order, and a new world political and social order. We will be moving towards our liberation if we stop trading in the dollar. And for now, I see countries like Russia, I see countries like Iran, India, and Venezuela playing the leading role in moving away from the dollar as a currency of preference in international trade.
Is that part of the struggle revolutionaries have in this moment?
Of course, it's a major part of the struggle. We need to ask ourselves, how come that the blockade against Cuba for close to 60 years has persisted and affected the Cuban economy so very strongly? We need to ask ourselves, how come that Venezuela is suffering hyperinflation in spite of its resources and so on? And the bottom line is clear, that the world international economic order is not in our interest and it has to change.
Thank you very much, Kawasi.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you
for
very
letting
much.
us.
His breakdown of how the dollar is being used as a method of control, I really, really agree with. I really, really agree with that. Okay, so I want to bring us to more modern times. And a lot of you have seen this clip because I aired it on my channel. This is the current South African movement that is happening. As I said, there are always two sides to the movement, right? There's always the Martin Luther King-esque side that just wants to, hold the conversation and do the march and calmly talk and work it out. And then there's people like the leader of Black First, Land First. So when we are thinking about the colonialistic, imperialistic arm going absolutely nuts around the globe, we're working our way from South America, which is just underneath us, through the Caribbean islands to the westernmost tip of Africa. And let's take a look at what's going on in South Africa. I'm going to show this clip because I'm going to show an interview that he did after this that literally, y'all, he deserves an award. He deserves an award for being the realest one ever. He is the realest ever. So we're going to watch this clip and then we're going to watch an interview where he doubles down in a news interview on what he said in this clip. And then we're going to have a conversation.
For each one person that is being killed by the taxi industry, will give 5 white people. For every one black person you killed, will give 5 white people. You kill one of us, will give 5 of you. You kill one of us, will give 5 of you. You kill one of us, kill 5 of you. You kill one of us, will kill 5 white people. Will kill the children, will kill the women, will kill anything that we find on our way. I am giving you today a shield and a sword so that we.
And I'm sorry, he said we'll kill anything we find on our way. I'm gotta back it up. I don't know. Can you guys understand him through his accent? Because he is really on some stuff right now. Like, this is his rhetoric. They are going crazy over this man. I know they want to lock him up, but they haven't been able to because he is wild. Wild.
For each one person that is being killed by the taxi industry, will give 5 white people. For every one black person you killed, will give 5 white people. You kill one of us, will give 5 of you. You kill one of us, will give 5 of you. You kill one of us, kill 5 of you. You kill one of us, will kill 5 white people. Will kill the children, will kill the women, will kill anything that we find on our way. I am giving you today a shield and a sword so that we can fight and defeat the enemy that defeated our people since 1652. We kill the children, we kill the women, we kill their dogs, we kill their girls, we kill anything that comes before us. The children of Satan must be weakened. The children of Satan must go to hell. The children of Satan must have diseases. The children of Satan must remember where they come from, so they leave our country. First thing that we must do is to kill the little white man. If you are hungry, there are shops around here. We'll kill their dogs and we'll feed ourselves. We must kill this little white man inside our head first, because if we do so, we'll not be afraid of white people. And we are.
He said you must kill the little white person inside your head because if you do so, y'all, that's worth another listen. I'm sorry. But let's just listen to it one more time and then we're going to get into the interview that he did, because if you can get past the fact that he's letting them know, because a threat was made. Let's be clear. A threat was made and he was like, don't threaten us because this will be an actual and for real war. Okay. So I'm sorry. I love this man so much. Like, every time I see him in an interview, it just gives me life. Every time anybody from Black First, Land First does an interview, I about fall the hell over. They are so real. They are so real. It is like unstoppable. It harkens me back to like the 1970s when Black people were just be like on Phil Donahue, on flipping, at UC Berkeley, just cutting the hell up with the truth. Just taking the truth out like a sword, and just it would be a bloodbath of truth in the room. And he just brings me back to that era. Gosh, can we bring that time back? Let's listen to this one more time, and then we're going to go into the interview. He's not yelling in the interview, though. He's able to calmly threaten people too, as we'll see in just a second. But just one more time with this, because I never get enough of this clip. Like, I live for this clip. It just y'all, this clip does something to my very spirit. He's a mess.
For each one person that is being killed by the taxi industry will give 5 white people. For every one black person you killed will give 5 white people. You kill one of us, we'll kill 5 of you. You kill one of us, we'll kill 5 of you. You kill one of us, kill 5 of you. You kill one of us, we'll kill 5 white people. We'll kill the children, we'll kill the women, we'll kill anything that we find on our way. I am giving you today a shield and a sword so that we can fight and defeat the enemy that defeated our people since 1652. We kill the children, we kill the women, we kill their dogs, we kill their girls, we kill anything that comes before us. The children of Satan must be weakened. The children of Satan must go to hell. The children of Satan must have diseases. The children of Satan must remember where they come from, so they leave our country. First thing that we must do is to kill the little white man. If you are hungry, there are shops around here. We'll kill their dogs and we'll feed ourselves. We must kill this little white man inside our head first, because if we do so, we'll not be afraid of white people. And we are organizing 50,000 RPG soldiers. And you must please sign up. Sign your name up for being an RPG soldier. I'm inviting you, those who are ready, to become soldiers in this revolution.
He said, I am inviting you, those who are ready, to become soldiers in this revolution. He is the realest ever. Y'all just don't know. I'm telling you, if you need a pick-me-up, just find a Black First Land First interview. Just any of them. It doesn't even have to be him. They all talk like this. He said, we are putting together 50,000 people. Sign up, because when this goes down, we are going to have an army. They are so scared of this man. Now, this white woman, the fact that she can sit there and he's not moved by the fact that she's a woman. Okay. This is not a game. Now, remember, this is South Africa. This is where Cuba came in and helped them kill a bunch of white people to liberate themselves. They were killing so many white people. White people finally said, fine, let's end apartheid. But they need to say, fine, let's go back to our own country. They need to do that, because they're playing with fire in South Africa. Okay. These people are not trying to play with them. They want to have the ELF doing some stuff, but they're about to have a reality check, because people are listening to Black First Land First. They're not feeling the ELF at all. And let me tell you, if you need a pick-me-up, all you need is to find a Black First Land First interview, because their interviews, when they talk to these people, y'all. Oh, when they talk to these people, I have a couple of them on my channel, because they give me so much life. I will be in stitches on the floor, because they are dead serious. They are not playing. I'm telling you, the revolution is at the door. They are at the door. They're over meeting in Venezuela, talking about tearing down white imperialism. They're handing out money. They're shutting down central banks and opening up their own. They're kicking out the International Monetary Fund. They're in Africa talking about a 5-for-1 strategy. Or 7. Was it 7 for 1? He said the dogs, the cats, the children of Saturn, they'll remember where they come from by the time they leave this country. Like, he is the realest. But I want us to and then we'll break into the conversation. I want us to get into his post, because he did interviews after this because people were wanting him to take it back. But see, the white splaining does not work with him because he starts interpreting the white splaining during the interview. You know, I have my white splaining series and the white person says something and then I interpret what they say. Why does he do that in real life, in real time during his interviews? It's y'all, it's a mess. You have to see it for yourself.
Now, Black First Land First has defended its president, Andile Mngxitama, saying the only sin he has committed is defending black people. Complaints have been lodged with various organizations after BLF leader Mngxitama said that for every one black life taken, 5 white lives would be taken. The video at a BLF event in Potchefstroom on Saturday went viral. He also said white people should be killed along with their pets and children. Mngxitama says...
I know this is not funny, but how is she able to do this with a straight face? Like, what kind of training did she receive? I tell you, she must feel very comfortable and safe because she's talking like past the butter. Like this, I'm telling you, non-American whites have a neutral way of talking about every subject that literally kills me because sorry, let me just play it.
He was reacting to businessman Johan Rupert saying he had an army in the taxi industry. Well, to discuss, we're joined by the BLF president in studio. Thank you for being with us. No matter if you're responding to someone or not, is this sort of language necessary when race relations in South Africa are at a low?
Absolutely. It is important to magnify what Johan Rupert said. In fact, my shock, the first shock was that black people were in the room, were clapping when Johan Rupert said he has an army of his own in the taxi industry. Do people know what happens in the taxi industry? Black people get killed.
You weren't saying let's kill Johan Rupert. You were saying for every one black person killed, let's kill 5 white people.
Of course.
Why are those other white people involved?
Because Johan Rupert, as taxi war, is not is for general black people, particularly those who are against him. We have seen this happening in the 80s where white people did black on black violence, and we're not going to repeat it. Johan Rupert, if he sends his paid hitmen to black people, we're simply going to have to defend ourselves and to do the same for white people. This is a preventative mess up. If you don't want to be killed, don't kill us.
Why are you using war talk when nobody's at?
Okay, I'm gonna address this because I'm trying to look at the chat back down here. Let's be clear, because she's about to play the clip. He wasn't out there just talking about let's kill white people. I hate white people. That's not the context. They're about to put it into context. A rich, wealthy white man was like, we have a private army. And you know how white people talk like pass the butter? He was making threats in the pass the butter context. Like, oh, we have a private army. And if we need to, you know what I mean? And so his response was like, don't threaten us with a private army, because if you so much as kill one black person, we're going to kill 5 white people in response. So you bring your private army if you want. And that's why he is saying, I don't sorry, y'all, that was my little one. That's why he was saying, if you don't want to die, don't kill us. So let's be clear. Let's not flip the script here, okay? For those of you who don't know the background, he wasn't on an epic rant on the stage because he just thinks it's a great idea to go out and threaten white people. He went on an epic rant because a rich white man who is known for using his private army to kill black people reminded him that they have a private army. And in response to being reminded about the private army, he got on a stage and was like, play with us if you want. Because if you kill even one black person, we will kill 5 for every one that you kill. So let's be very, very clear. And as far as overcoming with love, not hate, y'all, I don't think that we need to hate, okay? I don't think that we need to hate. You know, when somebody is hysterical and you slap them, do you slap them because you hate them? If somebody there's nothing you can do to calm them down and you grab them by their shoulders and you start shaking them like, calm down. Do you do that because you hate them? If somebody is hysterical and freaking out, do you go, okay, calm down? Okay, so you try to talk to them. So the talking doesn't work. Eventually you have to put hands on them and physically stop them. When somebody is having an epileptic seizure, you put something in their mouth and you stabilize. Like sometimes, you know, why is it that we equate the use of force with hate? Why is it not okay for somebody to slap you and the response be anything other than a hug? I want to know. I mean, we have to be careful with these terms when we use terms like, you know, hate and this and that. And also, I'm going to need you guys to literally understand the context of the speech that he gave. He wasn't just out there threatening white people. White people threatened him. White people threatened general Black people. And we're about to see that here. So let me go ahead and let it play. You can hear what the white man said on his own.
Here. Well, if somebody says an army, what is an army for?
So you
the same for white people.
Well,
this is a
why are those other white people involved?
Because Johan
not is this sort of language necessary when race relations in South Africa are at a low?
Absolutely. It is important to magnify what Johan Rupert said. In fact, my first shock was that Black people were in the room, were clapping when Johan Rupert said he has an army of his own in the tax industry. Do people know what happens in the tax industry? Black people get killed.
You weren't saying let's kill Johan Rupert. You were saying for every one Black person killed, let's kill 5 white people.
Of course.
Why are those other white people involved?
Because Johan Rupert, as tax war, is not is for general Black people, particularly those who are against him. We have seen this happening in the 80s where white people did Black on Black violence, and we're not going to repeat it. Johan Rupert, if he sends this paid hitmen to Black people, we're simply going to have to defend ourselves and to do the same for white people. This is really a preventative method. If you don't want to be killed, don't kill us.
Why are you using it?
But he's being honest. I'm telling you, that's why you have to listen to what he's saying. He said, if you sit in a room and talk about you have a private army, what is an army for other than to kill people? And we know that y'all kill people. So it's really a preventative measure. Like instead of going out and literally just killing that dude, I just made it clear that if you harm anybody, this is going to be the response to you harming us. So he's like, if you don't want to die, I'm mad that he said this to this woman. He said, if you don't want to die, don't kill anybody. I feel like, I'm sorry, y'all. Okay, I see my chat room is torn on this, but you guys, that's a fair statement. Okay, like if you don't want to die, just don't kill anybody. There will be no reason for us to retaliate against something that never occurs. That's all that he's saying. And y'all, it's a valid point. I'm sorry, it is a valid point.
Talk when nobody's at war here.
Well, if somebody says an army, what is an army for?
So you say Johan Rupert threatened to kill.
But I'm asking you, what is an army for? When I say I've got an army in the tax industry.
Let's let the viewers decide. We actually have Johan Rupert's clip. Let's just listen to what you were responding to, because you said it should all be put into context. Let's see if we can listen to that clip.
I have a friend, Java Mbusa. We go back long.
Oh, he's so fat and greasy. And this is what I'm telling. Look at how casually he's leaning on his arm. He's like, I'm not even taking this crap seriously. These Black people are acting out, and I'm not about to deal with this. He's looking like he is at a movie theater. He's propped up on his couch. This is a serious conversation. He's like, I don't even need to sit up straight for this. I'm going to tell you right now exactly how I feel about this. I have a friend. We go way back. He starts out.
I go. Sure. from when Jabu was, in private sector. Oh, by the way, Jabu and I have one thing in common. He's chairman of the Taxi Association. And one of the first tenants of Business Partners was the Taxi Association. So I also have my own army when those red guys come. They've got to go and remember the Taxi Association.
Did you hear what he said? Did everybody catch that? He was leaning back, all comfortable. He's like, I got a friend. We're in business. Taxi Association, known for killing Black people, for those of you who don't know. I've got an army. So when those red coats come, okay, talking about the revolutionaries, when they come, they just need to remember we've got a private army. Okay, this is what he's saying. That's an indirect threat. I mean, what are you going to use your private army for? Why does anybody need to remember that you have a private army? What is the relevancy of that, you know?
So he was specifically talking about the EFF, saying if they threaten him, he has an army. Does that justify you, the BLF, calling for white people to be killed?
Unfortunately for EFF, because it is being paid by Johan Rupert, is unable to defend itself when he makes such comments. But as Black First Land First, we defend all Black people, irrespective of their political affiliation, who come under.
Oh, they defend all Black people, irrespective of their political affiliation. This is why, the gay actor who very likely lied, you guys know I don't rock with gay people. I can't with the gayness, but I think that they should just let him go, because I just think of all the white people who have had Black people literally arrested on lies and they never see a wick of jail time. And there's a real person that got in trouble and they just go free. So I just feel like let the dude go, let him go. I will defend him despite the fact that I don't like homosexuality. I will defend him on the fact that, if white people can do it, he could do it too. His little half Black self, he could do it as well. So I'm with him. What is an army for? And if the EFF is taking money because they're a front, they're controlled opposition. I know a lot of people like them, but they're controlled opposition. If they're taking money, they can't really talk bad about the people that are giving them money, and their cohorts. They can't do that. And so at the end of the day, if a life is taken, what color is the life going to be? Because this is a Black against white thing in South Africa. So he's not talking about killing other white people. So he's only referring to killing other Black people. And all that he's saying is that it's completely unacceptable to kill any Black people. It's completely unacceptable to make the threat at all. And there will be repercussions, whether I like his political stance or not. Know that no Black heads get touched. That's all that he was saying. And I just don't see why that's not a fair statement. Now, what I don't want to see in the chat is, please, y'all, don't come for each other. I don't want a fight between racist whites who held South Africa in apartheid and the Black revolutionaries that are trying to push them out to turn into a fight where Black people are fighting with other Black people. That doesn't make any sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want us fighting each other in the chat. Please, please, please do not do that. Because this situation, we have to remember, is caused by the fact that these Black people were being oppressed in their own country by whites. And the organization that big, fat, greasy man was talking about is known for going through South Africa and killing Black people. It's a known fact that he has a private army. So when he alludes to that, the dude is not in the wrong to say, we don't care who you are threatening. You will kill no more Black people. Those days are done and they're over with. And there will be repercussions for that now. And so I don't want us in the chat attacking. I'm not looking at the chat totally right now, but I don't want us in the chat fighting amongst ourselves over a problem in South Africa that was caused. Look, I'm not even trying to be any funny kind of way, but it was caused by white people, y'all. Like, we have to be able to have an honest conversation. South Africa wasn't a mutually, that wasn't a mutual issue, okay? There was one issue in South Africa. It was white people oppressing black people. That is literally what was going on there. And so we will not fight in the chat with each other as the mess that is left from that oppression is trying to be cleaned up. Let's not do that. Please, 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 let's not.
From white people. The thing that terrifies us and angers us is that Johan Rupert sits there with absolute arrogance, claiming that he's got a private militia which he can unleash. We as Black First Land First are one of its biggest opponents.
Did he threaten to kill anyone?
An army, what does an army do? I mean, I don't understand. Maybe we must educate each other about an army. An army kills. And when I say I have a private army in the taxi industry, people get killed. And not just the driver or the owner, innocent people get killed. And we have been through this. BLF doesn't want war. We don't want war. We don't want any killing of anybody. But when you're a white person with so much power, you say an army you can unleash upon black people, then we have a big problem.
And see, that's a valid point. And see, that's why I'm saying he's like the white whisperer, okay? Like, seriously, she's like, but why would you say that? You know, he did not threaten you personally. He's like, well, he can't threaten black people at all. Well, and he's like, are we going to sit here and play stupid? They kill people. We know this. This happens. And then he's going to talk about he has an army. What is an army for if it's not to kill people? Why are we going to sit here and play stupid? I like that he calls them out immediately. Like, we're not even going to sit here and act like what he said was innocent. It wasn't innocent. Okay? It was not innocent.
This country, we have laws. If anyone kills a black person, they should go to jail.
That's right.
As a leader, why don't you encourage people to uphold?
See, that's the question you should have asked Johan Rupert. You see, exactly. I like this. This is the question that Johan Rupert shouldn't ask.
Johan Rupert's not here.
No. But no, I'm responding to you. Yeah, of course, I'm responding to that. Johan Rupert says, I don't care for the laws. I'm not going to go to the police. I'm going to start my army to kill black people. Now, black people have been killed. I'm talking to people from Katlehong, people who have seen massacres in the past by white people making black-on-black violence. They stand under apartheid.
Dude, he's bringing up a good point. Now, this is something we could talk about even here in the United States. He's like, she's going to be like, well, we have laws. We have laws. Why wouldn't you just let the laws protect you? He's like, but these white people are running around killing black people and nobody is arresting them. This is a good question. How does this man get to openly talk about he doesn't care about laws and go out and kill black people and then nobody goes to jail? And then the next time he threatens to kill black people, I'm supposed to sit there and say, I'm going to sick the cops on you? Really? See, that's why I love the way this man talks, because see, you're not going to convolute anything when you have a conversation with him. And I think we need to start having more conversations like this, just honest conversations where we are void of all political correctness. And we just get to the root of the conversation. We just get to the root of the issue. Now, again, for those of you just coming, this whole thing is in the context of the real problem that the European Union, the G8, our country have with Venezuela, who's in coalition with Cuba, who helped liberate South Africa from white people. And so this is the next wave of that revolution. That's why we're watching this interview, because I wanted to take it from Nelson Mandela, who loved Fidel Castro, from Jamaica, who refused to denounce Fidel Castro, even though they were in sore need of the money they were offered to denounce him, from Haiti, who colluded with Venezuela, but then was usurped by the imperialistic white hand through the United States government to infiltrate them, to make false use and theft of those funds that Venezuela helped them put to the side to rebuild Haiti. And Venezuela's coalition with Cuba and the revolutionary meeting that they're holding in Venezuela next month to put into perspective this propaganda on television and what the real problem is, which is that the revolution is at the door. And they're ready to kill everybody involved. They're ready to tear these countries apart over this. And so we've come to the present day because we talked about Nelson Mandela and Africa's relationship with Cuba. We just sat there and watched an African man from Ghana talk about how the revolutionaries worldwide are meeting in Venezuela next month to discuss how they are going to crush imperialism. And so we're only doing this in context because I want people say, Yvette Carnell said it. The time is over. The revolutionaries all got killed. She showed us an article where their blood were covering the streets of Africa. Well, you know what? The revolution's still here. Like nothing's changed. And it's gotten bigger. And it includes more countries. And they are out here talking with anonymity about what they're about to do. And the imperialistic arm is scrambling to crush this. And we are complacent as American Blacks here in the States. A lot of us are not aware that these things are going on. So if you didn't watch this live from the beginning, please go back to the beginning because it lays out the foundation for why we are listening to this revolutionary in South Africa. Because I said this was the Africa-Cuba connection. The Latin Caribbean Alliance, Africa connection, the revolutionary connection. And I'm going to show you that this thing is even bigger than the countries we've covered. We're going to look at some other countries. I'm going to show you just how big this thing is and what the real issue is that we're not talking about here in the States.
Apartheid state.
I have no intention to defend Johan Rupert, but people heard what he said. So you're saying your response to what he said is justified?
Absolutely. We're simply saying, Johan Rupert and white people, don't kill us. We have done this before using other black people. We are not going to fight taxi industry people. We have no beef with taxi industry people. We have a beef with Johan Rupert and white people are going to bring war to us, and therefore we are going to take the war to them. That's all.
There's a complaint with the Independent Electoral Commission. If you're found guilty of inciting violence or hatred, you could lose that registration. Are you not worried about that?
No, we're not worried. That's not going to happen. In fact, we are open to seeing the Independent Electoral Commission. They have no basis. So in fact, just now on the 4th of December, the Appeals Court Division has brought an interesting judgment around hate speech. In fact, this guy, Kosatu, was saying that the Palestinian people must do exactly what the Israelis are doing to them. They must go for them in South Africa, everywhere. And the appeals court said that's actually protected speech. So we haven't said anything outside of the South African constitutional protection. And the point is, Johan Rupert must be asked, is the violence in the taxi industry his creation? Does he have any control over that violence? Why is he raising the issue of taxi?
Can I ask you, how many members does the BLF have? Right?
Every black person is a member of BLF. Sometimes they just don't know it. Soon they realize that the white system is against
Yes, yes. And this is what I was saying about division, exactly what he said. You're a part of this thing, whether you want to be a part of it or not. Okay? Like you can pretend like you're not a part of it. But when it goes down, they're going to see your black face and you're going to be put on a side of the coin. And that's what we have to recognize. That's why I don't understand the divisiveness. You are on a side. We think as black people that we can pick a side. No, we don't get to pick a side. Our skin picks the side. Okay, so you think you're picking a side until some real stuff happens and you find out that no white people engage in conversations to find out what intellectual side you're on. This is a good point that he's making. He's like, all black people are part of the Black First Land First movement, whether they realize it or not. You're going to realize that if the shit hits the fan, they're not going to be like, oh, I remember that black dude was on our side in that one conversation. That's not what's going to happen. They're going to see your skin and they're going to place you on a side. And I think that we really need to remember this. And that's why I say we can never turn on each other, especially not in the defense of anybody else. And again, it's not about hating white people. I don't vibe that way. I don't have to hate them to make a very true statement.
Them. And in fact, when they do, they become our members. So we're not worried about that.
So this is just anecdotal. I've been covering the news for a long time. You guys used to gather, and it seemed like very small groupings. It does seem that
Did you see this Saturday in Potchefstroom?
Yes, it seems that you are growing in size. My question to you is, are you using this sort of language to appeal to maybe a militant section to grow your support?
South Africans are very conservative. This language, of course, does not endear you. But we as Black First Land First, we're not politicians. We're telling the truth and we love black people.
Are you doing it for political reasons?
No, not for political reasons. Black people, when they come under threat, we take a stand. And in fact, I can tell you now, it makes us look bad, the fact that we have used this language, but we're amplifying the violence of Johan Rupert that comes as arrogance of control, which elicits clapping and, joking about violence, that's why we must use the violence that shows what it is.
In South Africa, white on black oppression?
Absolutely. You arrived here in 1652, took our land, all the problems, every problem we have.
I'm mad that broad just asked, is it about white on black oppression in South Africa out of all places, y'all? For real? Are we going to pretend that apartheid never happened? That was a dumb question. She sounds absolutely crazy up there asking these questions. I don't know who gave her questions list, but this is very questionable, her line of questioning.
Our exclusion, the townships, the violence, the fact that we're poor, and you have as white people in this country, in this country, white people live the best life as a consequence of oppressing black people, have not accounted for that.
Some people would say that the Gupta family also oppressed black people. What's coming out now is evidence of state capture. Let me finish. You apparently went to the Guptas and asked for money. So are you not willing to work with oppressors?
No, well, that's very interesting, but let's deal with the Guptas. So there was this court case against the Guptas, right? What did the judges say? That was the biggest case, the still case in the Free State.
The
judges
state capture is still going on.
The state capture still.
Now, let me be real. I'm not with his coalition with the Guptas. I'm not rocking with that. I'm not. I think he's making a bad move. In a similar way that Haiti appealing to Putin, I'm not really with it. I can understand it, but I'm not really with it.
We're going to the state capture commission ourselves, and we're going to show that, in fact, the biggest state capturers are white monopoly capital and the Oppenheimer's family. Do you know, as we speak now,
are the Guptas innocent in your mind?
Well, of course, find them guilty, bring them evidence. We want to bring evidence to show that Oppenheimers have an international airport of their own inside an international airport after having gone to the ANC, not government, and both the Oppenheimers, the son and the father, and actually said the ANC must give them an international airport. Inside any international airport. So what it means, they go to Kimberley, take our diamonds, fly here out, and then sell them to Colombia. What do they bring from Colombia? Me and you don't know. Maybe drugs, maybe guns. What is happening in this country where white people, white family can have an international airport and it's not state capture, it's not corruption. We are going to Zondo to actually say, this is what you should deal with. Not these claims about emails that says that the Guptas were corrupt. If they are corrupt, we're very happy. Bring the evidence. Let them be dealt with.
Are you going to carry on speaking like this? I mean, you said you're not at all of any hate speech finding. But already last year, Sanef got an indictment against you for violence against journalists, for threatening journalists. Aren't you worried that this could affect your political prospects in future?
No, we don't care for political prospects. We care for black liberation. We want black people to be respected. We don't want to be killed willy-nilly. We don't want any white person says got an army that can kill us and with no consequences. We have seen that happen in the past. It's not going to happen now. We are here to defend and love black people, and we are not going to basically allow that under the threat that politically it might affect us negatively. We are not politicians.
Twitter
revolutionaries.
has, I think, banned you for a few days.
Actually, Lede, I agree with you. And that's what I was saying in my last live. I don't like that he has to go to Gupta. I don't like that Haiti has to go to Russia. But Russia is one of the only white countries who has not denounced Venezuela's president. And so I can understand, and China too, are one of the only members of the G8 who haven't jumped on this bandwagon along in Mexico. There are very few countries who haven't jumped on this bandwagon. And so I think that they view them as allies and they're trying to make allies. The thing is that, Lede brings up a good point. If we as Black people are not going to back them collectively, are not going to be sending our money that does more work in their country to help fund these movements, then they are left with no choice but to pander to non-Blacks who have shown themselves to be sympathizers. And so that's why I said, I agree with you, Lede, that I understand it. I don't like it, but I can definitely understand it. How can I criticize it when I know that we're not going to do the work that needs to be done so that they can protect themselves?
You're upset?
No, I'm not upset. I expect that. any black person who speak for black people, there were consequences for speaking black. So black speech is generally censored. If it's not censored, white people are going to deal with you. We expect this and we expect more, and we are ready. And we are very happy to see that black people increasingly hear what we are saying. We love black people too much to allow them to be basically threatened the way Johan Rupert and others are doing.
All right, thank you very much for your time. That was the president of Black First, Land First.
Okay, let me stop sharing my screen with you. And am I not sharing? Okay, I'm not sharing with you. Okay. So I don't know how many of you guys were here from the very beginning of this, but there's a reason, like I said, that we ended with that particular clip. And that was because we were dealing with Nelson Mandela's relationship with Fidel Castro and the situation between South Africa and Cuba and the overall revolutionary movements that are happening simultaneously throughout the earth. Specifically, we've only looked at so far in this series, we looked at Venezuela, the Latin Caribbean Alliance, we've looked at Haiti. Today, we looked at Cuba and South Africa and how all of these people are connected, how they've been aiding each other, both with education, with money, with commerce, with literally laying their lives down for each other. And so that was the spirit in which we're ending with the leader of Black First, Land First, because the movement in South Africa isn't over. And he's one of the faces of that movement today. So with that said, y'all, that was a lot. And I know that there are a lot of people here who didn't watch this from the beginning. I'm interested to know how you guys feel. So let's just take 30 minutes and only 30 minutes to go ahead and do some phone calls, because for those of you guys that were here last night, we have figured out how to do phone calls. Yay, I'm so excited about that. And so I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on it. I am going to take a small, like literally 5 minutes just to stretch my legs and get some water, because we've been hanging with each other now for 2 hours. And I'm going to go ahead. Let's see if I can find something to play for you guys that you can listen to while I just like be a human being and like have some water. I'm thirsty, y'all. I'm so thirsty. Okay, let's see. All right, yes. So I'm gonna play this for you guys, and then we'll start with some phone calls. Yay! We get to try this in real time. I'm so excited. It was so wonderful when you guys called in yesterday. I was so excited about that we got it to work. So let's hope today that I can manage to do this without a problem, because you guys know that I am not tech savvy, like in any way, shape, or form. I am just absolutely not. Okay, so let me go ahead and play this, and then I will be right back. Okay, you guys, y'all. My daughter baked baking. Oh, I'm sorry. My daughter baked baking powder biscuits and everything. So I have some baking powder biscuits and some jam, and I'm ready to take some calls. So I am excited. Yes, Soto, I do have WhatsApp. So let's see. Let me go ahead and get it open and put the number in the chat so that you guys can call in if you like to call in. And if my mods can make a note of the number so that Soto, you are such a troll. He was like hashtag all lives matters. You know, Michi X had like when hashtag all life matters go wrong, it was cracking me up. There was this black dude that was like, all lives matter, all lives matter. And then a white girl popped up. She's like, only my life matters. And she was going on about white people. And I was like, I hope that they are playing. Like, really. You guys be nice to Soto. He is not a bad dude. We're so quick to turn on each other. Let's not turn on each other. Do you know what's really good? If you make baking powder biscuits with butter, not buttermilk, but with eggnog, it'll change your whole life. Okay, so I am about to open this up. Let me see. Thank you for being patient, you guys. Okay. I'm going to try to do it exactly the way I did it last time so that I don't have any problems. So let's see. All right, let me put the number in the chat. I don't know it by heart, so I've got to like copy and paste. So this is the hold on, let's see. Okay, that is the number. So you guys can call in if you like. And we'll do, let's just go until 2 p.m. Pacific. So like 30 minutes. We can do like 30 minutes of calls and just kind of talk about it. And we'll see. Y'all, that all made me hungry. Or it could be that I haven't eaten today and it's almost 2 o'clock. But I'm starving. Hold on, let me do this. And you guys can keep it. Oh, and I also want to play no, I'm not Letty. I'm just bad at eating. My man is always like, "Did you eat?" Because I just get caught up and I forget to eat. So I'm not doing it intentionally. It just kind of happened because I was on a panel for a short time, homeschooling, cooking breakfast, all that kind of stuff. Um and then I was listening to Angel Ramirez Jordan. Hi, goodness rated. And then I was listening to Angel Ramirez, and okay, I want to make sure I'm not missing. Yesterday, y'all, you guys were calling and I literally was missing the calls. I think I also should take it off of my Bluetooth. 'Cause I feel like that's just going to add another element of um, ridiculousness to things. You forget to not to you forget to eat too? I know. I'm so hot. Okay. Why is my Google acting funny? Oh no, y'all. If you guys aren't gonna call in, then I'm gonna continue with my day. Because I was only gonna sit through. You eat like a bird and you try to snack a lot, picking off big meals, or you get full fast. Yeah, I get full fast too. I really do. Which is a shame. I think I want to make a pie. Like I'm in the mood for a pie. I just want to, what I want to do on just another note? I want to have pie and a glass of wine or champagne. Mm, apple, peach, anything like that, Liddy. Okay, I think something's going on here. Apple or peach or anything like that, I think I would want. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm missing calls. Okay. So clearly somebody did try to call. I apologize. Can you try to call back, whoever called? I told you guys I'm not good at this. So just bear with me, y'all. I said nobody was calling, but somebody was calling. I just don't know what I'm doing. Hold on, I'm going to unhook all this. Oh, wait, you guys cannot hear me this whole time? Wait, shut the front door. Could you guys hear me this whole time or not? Oh, I'm pissed off about that. That's so funny. Okay, I was having multiple technical difficulties. I was just talking to you guys. I was saying, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I see that you guys are calling, but I don't hear anything. Okay, you guys, I'm not good at this. All right. Why are you guys who have been like Soto, you know Soto. You guys that have been with me for a long time know that I'm not technically savvy, and every time I try something new technologically, like I always somehow mute myself. So today was no different, so I apologize. I was like talking to you guys. I was like, I'm so sorry. I see you guys are calling in and I'm not getting the calls. But you guys could not even hear me talking to you? That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. Okay, okay. Well, forget it. Forget it, forget it, forget it. It's fine. We'll try it next time. It worked last night, so maybe I'll need to do like another live where I just test out the calling thing again because I missed a bunch of calls again today and you guys couldn't hear me, so maybe I haven't perfected the call-in yet. So we'll do another test where like we'll have a chill session like we did last night where we tried to call it in. And maybe I'll be able to get the hang of it then. So anyway, let me throw the call-in number again and you guys can save it. Maybe my blood glucose is low. I know, and it's got me tripping. Like I can't function. I can't function because I need to eat. So we'll try it again. So I'm sorry that this time the call-in was a fail, you guys, because I'm still learning, but just bear with me. I'll do another chill session where we can just practice calling in where everything is chill, like we did last night, because I had trouble with this last night too. But finally, I got it to work. So we'll probably need to do that again. Maybe before we try this in the real world, like in a real life, we'll have to do a few more practice sessions so I can get the hang of it, because I think I'm the one that's doing something wrong, because y'all are calling. I'm just not answering your calls. So that's a problem. With that said, I hope that you did enjoy this live. I am about to try to get my glucose up. I'm going to try to eat something. I'm going to tear into this baking powder biscuit that my daughter made me. And do share the information that you saw here. And do make sure to just spread the word. I think if you do that, then that would be awesome. Just to put more perspective on what's going on with Venezuela and Haiti, Cuba, the Latin Americas, the Caribbean islands, and the southernmost part of Africa. I think that if we do that, we can get a dialogue going that will be really, really meaningful. Okay, yeah, but that would be off topic, Paul, so don't do that. Yeah, I think it will be good with some tea. Actually, Lede, that's exactly how my daughter is serving it. She's serving baking powder biscuits with preserves and tea, or with jam and tea. So that's what I'm about to have. So with that said, I'm gonna get out of here. And I'm so sorry to those of you guys who called in. I'm so sorry that I missed every last one of your calls. Next time, I will do it right. We'll practice. Practice makes perfect. All right, bye-bye. I'll talk to you guys later.